You wanted trenches. You got trenches. Kwesi just went insane, adding 3 new players. We're going to talk about them all and maybe what's next to come on Locked On Vikings.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. A mere 12 hours later, not even. We are back live here on the Locked On Vikings podcast. So if you're catching up on all of these from hindsight, if you're listening to these later on Wednesday or whatever, there are 2 episodes from Monday, not to mention the Monday morning episode about Aaron Jones. So this is the 4th episode of the week. Go make sure you catch it up. But welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we're always trying to learn something new. Say it with me. Y'all know how to. I'm live. Laughing at what chat is saying. Chat is going crazy because we've got a lot of stuff going on here. So let's dive right in. The Vikings add 3 new players to the trenches. They were serious about fixing the trenches. Maybe the 2 biggest roster issues for the Vikings were that they couldn't get pressure on the interior and they couldn't stop pressure on the interior. And oh my God, did Kwesi go nuts in the early morning of Tuesday, March 11th to fix that problem. They got Ryan Kelly yesterday. We talked about it yesterday. But today they finally reach a deal with Jonathan Allen. It seems like they had I'm going to guess they had an offer on the table and he went and slept on it and then woke up in the morning and was like, yeah. I didn't realize that his agent was Blake Barrett's. That's Adam Thielen's agent. Blake Barrett's has represented many Minnesota Vikings over the years. Great relationship with the organization. Anybody represented by Blake Barrett's has a decent chance to become a Viking at some point. So Jonathan Allen comes in. It's a 3-year, $60 million deal. So that's $20 million a year. Importantly, he's not a compensatory free agent, so that doesn't count toward any of that. Just straight up 3 for 20, no other considerations. I have no idea on any of the contract structures, by the way. This episode is being recorded right as this news was. I'm on the West Coast, y'all. I woke up at 6:30 in the morning and was like, I should check the news real quick before I go back to bed and then wake up at a reasonable hour. And there are 3 new guys. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm doing a show. So we'll start with him, but also Javon Hargrave. Will Fries rejoins Ryan Kelly. So you got 2 guys off that Colts O-line, maybe the only 2 guys worth a damn on that Colts offense. And now we move on. Also, I should mention, I'm going to go later on Locked On Seahawks to talk Sam Darnold. So if you want to, look, I'm a root for the Seahawks a little bit. I want Sam Darnold to do well. So I'll be caping a little bit for the idea of Sam Darnold, even though I'm not sure I quite get the fit with what those guys are doing schematically with the staff that they have, but we'll talk about it. Boy, what a day. Let's address the elephant in the room here. Dylan Ruckty in the chat is asking, did the Vikings overpay for Jonathan Allen? Didn't he have guaranteed money left from the Commanders? So whether or not he had guaranteed money is neither here nor there. I don't think he did. I actually think a big problem was that he didn't, and he wanted a new deal, and the Commanders were like, no. He might have had prorated bonus left over from the Commanders, but that's not money that Jonathan Allen will earn right now. That's money he got the year he signed the deal in the first place. So no money will change hands between the Commanders and Jonathan Allen, if that's your deal. But so no. 20 mil is probably a lot for a DT, but let's do the math live here. Okay, so 20 divided by 279.2, that's the cap, right? So that's 7.1% of the cap. So what I usually do, 7.1% of the cap, then I go to overthecap.com, I go to their history tab and go to contract history and click the guy's position. This one's interior defensive line. So 7.1% of the cap this is how I do the contract adjusted thing, right? So they do this, a 7.1% of the cap, that's what Michael Brockers got in 2016. Some other examples, Corey Liuget in 2015, Mike Daniels for the Packers in 2015, if you remember him. Somewhere around Jonathan Allen's already in here. I was like, the Jonathan Allen contract. Or Osa Odigizua, the extension that he signed. So yeah, sure, market rate, and he's a little older. That's the thing with both of these DTs. You got Jonathan Allen, who's 30, and Javon Hargrave, who's 32. Jonathan Allen is 30, right? And not 31. And Jonathan Allen was a little bit banged up. Yeah, he's 30. And he was a little bit banged up. But I think for the Commanders, like, you always have to ask, okay, why'd they cut this guy when you're signing a cut? And for the Commanders, it was very much an odd man out situation. Interesting that they got Javon Kinlaw in the building. But they had a rookie that I thought they were excited about in Jerjon Newton. And then, of course, they had Daron Payne next to him. So they've got a crazy DT room all the time. And I think it was just, yeah, no, we're not going to pay you. If that's the money that you're asking for, the Commanders were not going to do that because they had such an embarrassment of riches at that position. But the Vikings don't have an embarrassment of riches at that position. So what happens to this DT group is now really interesting. Jonathan Bullard, I'm going to guess, is not coming back. I think Javon Hargrave is your Jonathan Bullard replacement, and I'm thrilled with that. I love Jonathan Bullard, but Javon Hargrave, I think, is a much more serious player, and I think he's a bit more of a pass rusher too. Here's the thing, though, with Javon Hargrave, I'll move on to him in earnest in a bit, but I'm going off the dome here, okay? I've been up for like 30 minutes. My most vivid memory of him of late is him getting sledded by Garrett Bradbury in the week 2 game where Sam Darnold popped off so much. So I'll be curious to see what I find with those guys. But here's what I'll do for all of these guys, okay? I'm really excited right now. And I as looking at chat, oh my God, you guys are too. Love it. Everybody is going crazy. Hey, that's my alarm. Wake up, Luke. That was my second alarm for that you should wake up and check the news. The news happened, buddy. So I wanted to. So here's my promise to you. I will look at all of these guys and everything I am feeling right now, as excited as I am. Look, if I watch the tape and I'm like, oh my God, Jonathan Allen's actually super washed, I'll be honest with you about that. I don't think that's what I'm going to find, but I'm going to give it myself a chance to find it. Bad Dad Joke says, please don't wake up. This is awesome. Right. Yeah. I'm in some kind of crazy dream. And we haven't even talked about what they did on the O-line yet. There's so much going on. I'll give you a stat. I think Andrew Kramer put this out on Blue Sky, probably put it out on Twitter as well. From a piece he just put out on everything the Vikings did. Yeah, between 2018 and 2023, Jonathan Allen averaged 46 quarterback pressures annually, according to PFF. The Vikings have not had a player do that 40 or more in a year since Sheldon Richardson in 2018. And 2018 was such a bummer of a year, but you remember that defense, right? This feels so completing. And I think the thing that got me really excited is if either of these guys can be a problem, Allen or Hargrave, or Harrison Phillips, who's still in the building for sure. I don't know if you suddenly like cap casualty that or whatever. But if those guys are at all what they need to be, and you can't just stick your guard on them and win. That was the issue, right? I loved how Jonathan Bullard pushed the pocket. And I thought Tillery made a few plays. I thought Jerry Tillery did an okay job for the rotational role, and he was brought in for no money. I thought it was fine. But they kind of moneyballed it. It was cheap. And when you have that, like nobody doubled Jerry Tillery. They just stuck their guard on him. And you got to understand, there are a lot of teams that feel about the way that we feel about Ed Ingram. Like, imagine walking into a game and being like, yeah, Ed Ingram, one-on-one with that guy, it's fine. And like pretty much every team could do that with their version of whoever their Ed Ingram was, or their Blake Brandel. You cannot do that with Jonathan Allen. One of the games I'm really excited to really hone in on with him, and I noticed him big time on this one live, was the Lions playoff game. The crazy upset. Jonathan Allen saw God in that game. So I'm really excited to see what he can still do. And you know what? 30 is not 90. I know it feels so much older than 29, but that's a cognitive bias that we have, and it ain't nothing but a number. I don't think he's getting old anytime soon, and he's on a 3-year deal. So this dude's going to play the whole tail end of his career as a Viking. Very, very exciting stuff. But there's also Javon Hargrave, and I haven't even talked about Will Fries. The Fries have been put in the bag, everybody. We got a lot more to get into on the Locked On Vikings podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by Betterhelp. BetterHelp is online therapy made easy. And if you've been thinking about getting into therapy, but you're worried about the time commitment, you're worried about putting in the effort to get to an office or something like that, BetterHelp is made to assuage those concerns. For one, they are going to match you with a therapist they think is right for you. If you don't like that person, you can always switch at no additional cost until you find somebody that really is right for you. And it's online. It's flexible. It's easy. You can do it on video chat. You can do it by phone. You can even do it by text if you want. So whether you are dealing with a new kid or a new job or just a stressful job or many of the above, BetterHelp can help you work therapy into your schedule. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, let's move on here with the Locked On Vikings podcast. Javon Hargrave, also a Viking. This is the guy that I probably anticipated the least and knew the least about. I don't, as of this recording, I don't even have a contract number for him. I think we're still waiting on one. So if you see one for the... Yeah, if you see one for Javon Hargrave, let me know. I'm looking for it right now, but I don't see it. So we'll wait on that. We'll see what happens. But the 49ers have essentially had an entire exodus of their defense. I don't know what's going on in the 49ers. This is Locked On NFL. I will go on Locked On NFL. I'll record it later today. It'll be up. It'll probably be live like this one. I think that's what Tyler is doing right now on Locked On NFL. But he's a post-June cut. Yeah, so he's a cut, yeah, for sure. So there, again, no compensatory impact here. Right now, Will Fries counts as a compensatory pick. If it ended now, he would be canceling out Sam Darnold. Ryan Kelly would cancel out Bynum. Patrick Jones would be canceled out by Isaiah Rodgers. Oh my God, it's escaping me. There's too much to track. That would be where it is if things ended, but there are still a lot of players out there that will get compensatory money that the Vikings are that will be waiting on. Cam Robinson, he'll get compensatory. I don't know if it's going to be as much as like the PFF contract said he was going to get like 18 mil a year. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. Cameron Rolfe says Pelissero reported they were close with Hargrave. Okay, so it's not confirmed beyond close yet. Copy that. That makes that's still enough to talk about. I mean, that's happening. If Pellissero's saying it, like that's happening. But I guess we are still open to like plot twists tweets. So yeah, we'll see. Yeah, Daniel Jones, Cam Robinson. There's so for comp pick watch, there are still guys out there waiting to sign in. We'll see what happens. But assuming that all goes down, yeah, that adds another one. And he's 32, right? 32, 305 pounds, big dude. I think also meant to be kind of in the middle. So I think looking at this group, both these guys flank Harrison Phillips as I'm like processing this in real time. Harrison Phillips should still probably be the zero, should still probably be the nose. But now I think you take him off the field in nickel packages. And I don't really care about the money. I don't care about saying like, oh, he's making so and so much money and you're going to take him off on third downs. Like, yeah, man, the Vikings lived in NASCAR in third downs last year. Like they had Patrick Jones in there, like taking on double teams against draw plays and guys would convert 3rd and 6s on them. It's a problem. But so like having two true pass rushing DTs that you don't have to take off the field in a third down is really, really nice. So we'll table that for now, I guess. I'll circle back to that later in the week once I get a chance to watch a little bit of tape. But these guys are coming in so far. I haven't had a chance to watch a single play so far. So let's put a pin in that and let's talk about the O-line. Will Fries is on a 5-year, $88 million deal. So I always say structure is really important with these. I have no idea how much cap space they have this year because I don't know what the first year cap hits for any of the contracts are. You could do like average annual value, and I think if you added up the average annual value of all the contracts they've signed so far, the Vikings would be way over the cap, right? Like that, and that would be a really dumb way to structure a contract. You would never structure a contract that way. So I have no idea what the contract structures of any of these things are. We'll just have to wait for that to come out, and we'll let over the cap do their thing and do the math for us. We don't have to do the math ourselves. But 5 years, 88 is nuts to me for Will Fries. That is so much more than I thought, or that's so much less than I thought. I mean, you've got guards going for 20 mil a year right now. So that's actually it's 17.6 mil a year. So that's 7.1% of the cap. So let's go do our same thing with the Will Fries contract, with the contract history. And we'll go to call him a right guard, left guard, right guard. It'll all be the same. Pretty big money, actually. Okay, that felt bigger in instinct or smaller in instinct, but it's like what Quinn Maynors made last year, what Kevin Zeitler made in the New York or the Cleveland, New York deal from 2017. Not what Kevin Zeitler's making nowadays. The Samuel Cosme deal from last year. So that's pretty much a market rate extension. Okay, so the leg didn't cost him anything, which is fine. A broken tibia is like a fractured tibia is a much easier injury to recover fully from than a like your body is just better at healing bones than it is at healing ligaments because of like blood flow and bone marrow and stuff. So there's a much lesser worry about long-term complications. So what Will Fries did is and by the way, I looked into this. It is Fries. It is not Fries like Matt from Kindred Skulls. This is different. And poor Matt is going to be mispronounced forever now. Sorry, buddy. But yeah, he is like the injury is not a thing I would be long-term concerned about. But what it meant is that his first 5 weeks where he played really well got to be the thing he got defined on. And he got to cash in on that for a 5-year deal. But when it's a 5-year deal, you can do all kinds of nutso stuff with that contract. And depending on the guarantees, we'll see how much of that he actually sees. And there's a lot of contracts like that may be a little inflated with, like Byron Murphy is maybe a little inflated. And I talked about that a lot yesterday. Make no mistake, I'm fine with that. It's maybe a little bit over like what perfectly efficient is, but who cares, dude? Like Byron Murphy's a good player. And same thing with Jonathan Allen, like good player, just get him in. The final move needs to just be, signing Harrison Smith. That's what Michael Hamilton says. We'll see what Harrison Smith does. He's got a contract trigger next week on St. Patrick's Day, so we'll see. But yeah, Eric Manis says, is Duo going to go even crazier this season in the chat? Yeah, that's what it is. No, Ty Cash, go listen to yesterday's show saying we had to overpay for Murphy once Reed went to the Lions. I don't think it works that way. I think everybody knew what the contracts were going to be going in. I don't think they sit there during the frenzy of free agency and make you edit things on the contract like as other news breaks. Not that quickly. They knew that was always what it was going to be. Anyways, so yeah, Duo's going to go nuts. So I love this. I love keeping the chemistry of Ryan Kelly and Will Fries. The fact that those two guys can be together, can know what each other, like that they know how to communicate with each other. O-line has so much communication in it that like there are some great clips of those two guys like picking up a stunt with each other. Like, okay, they can do that. That's excellent. That's something the Vikings have struggled so much with lately. I'm excited. I don't know. I think Will Fries is a good guard. I think that's just a good player, and they got him for 5 years, right? So the Vikings think he's a good player too. He's going to be on the team for a while until you start having cap casualty conversations. We might have to dedicate a whole show to contract structures because it's important information. Like this is not me just geeking out about numbers. This is like the practical impacts of, okay, when is this contract cuttable? When is this contract going to get restructured? What's going to happen here? Can change your entire perception of what the Vikings did today. If Will Fries is on a 5-year deal, but really it's a 2-year deal with an out in the third, like that's a totally different vibe, right? That unit, though, now very exciting. So we'll see what happens with Christian Darrisaw at left tackle if he can start the season right away. But whatever, right? By Halloween, that's Christian Darrisaw. Might be like Walter Rouse in the meantime, or maybe they draft somebody, or maybe they've got another signing coming. And then at the guard position, so Will Fries played right guard last year for the Colts. So I'm assuming that's a right guard, and that's the guy they benched, right? So I'm assuming they just plug him in at right guard. And then at left guard, you have Blake Brandel right now. I wouldn't, like, I think with Ed Ingram, who honestly feels like he's barreling toward a camp cut, throwing him over at, like, he ain't going to beat Will Fries in a competition. Throw him at left guard, see if he can beat Blake Brandel at a competition and save his job. And I think that there's a reasonable chance that he can. And you just have those two guys compete. But it feels so much better to have two maybe guys competing with each other, because now only one of them has to be good. One of them can be a total mess and you can just shed it and be rid of it. And even if Blake Brandel's a total mess, I don't think you'd cut him. But if Ed Ingram is, you do. That's like the dynamic I think there's. And of course, Ryan Kelly at center. And I don't think Garrett Bradbury is long for the Vikings. I did misspeak in the past and talk about him, Garrett Bradbury, having a contract trigger that happens soon, where with like rolling guarantees. I was wrong about that. That was last year. And then there's a void year next year. So there's no guarantees on the Garrett Bradbury contract. It's very tradable, very cuttable. And when there's no guarantees and no date for those guarantees to trigger, a lot of times teams will just carry that into camp and say, you know what, try to, we'll see something, right? Moving him to guard, though, is an idea a lot of people have said, and I think that's a little Madden-brained. That is not a good idea with Garrett Bradbury. He's already too small to play center. Guards have to be bigger than centers. I think he is a center through and through for his whole career. And if you don't have room for that, you know, if you don't want him to be your backup center now, which would be fine, it'd be overpaid, but that's also, I think, an option that's not like out of the blue. Then just trade him. 7-6 swap. Just get rid of him to somebody, right? And somebody will look like they got a starter for nothing, and it's fine. Bradbury in the Munt role. Yeah, true. It's like the entire chat is saying Bradbury should play tight end 3. You guys are all right. Yeah, you're cooking. So I don't think that Bradbury playing guard is an option here. I think he's just the odd man out, and thanks for all your service, and you're going to go be flipped to somebody else. Would love to get a draft pick for him, but if they carry him into camp and, you know, cut him, then that's something that teams will do as well. Like, I wouldn't be super shocked about that. But I guess that sort of parlays into the next question, which is what's next? Now, the Vikings, I think, have addressed most of their really pressing needs. I think I think the secondary is where I think the trenches are done for free agency. I think maybe you can grab a guard in the draft if you want another one. I still think that's very much an option as a first round pick, but if you don't, you're fine, which is where you want to be, right? And so I think you're there. I think on defensive line, it could be a first round pick, but if you don't, you're fine. Okay, we're where we want to be. In the secondary, we're not there yet. We still only have 2 safeties that are serious. We have Josh Metellus and one of those guys is Theo Jackson, by the way. So, like, we need safeties. We'll see what Harrison Smith does, but you can't rely on that. I think you need to bring a name in. You need to bring like a serious player in there. And then there's the corner room, where I kind of talked about yesterday. I would like to see one more guy before I feel like it's not like a priority. So I still think a corner and a safety are important. And again, I don't know where the Vikings are at money-wise at all, because I don't know these contract structures yet. We'll track that as that info comes out. But if they have the money, I would still love for them to do that. I know Javon Holland just went. I am fine with letting that one walk. That's okay to me. I thought that he was really overrated by the market, so I'm good there. Chat's throwing out names like Justin Reed. Yeah, all these guys are going to be a possibility, I think. Especially the older players. And then what you're going to have is a fairly veteran defense, right? You're going to have a lot of guys over 30, but guys over 30 with gas in the tank, and you can make it work, right? And yeah, I know they still have Dwight McGlothern, but he's depth. You need a starter. I think you need a starter at safety. You need a starter at corner. And I don't think sitting there and watching your undrafted second-year guy and being like, yeah, that guy will be a starter. Like, that's not responsible. So I think there's still work to do here. I don't think the Vikings are done. In terms of what's left in the secondary, I think there's like some, I don't think I saw Mike Hilton go anywhere yet. There's still all those corners we talked about on the last couple of shows. But safety wise, yeah, you still have Justin Reed. I don't think did Trevon Moore go anywhere? It's hard to track all this live, but that's what we're doing here on Locked On Vikings. We're doing all this stuff live. I think once you get those, then we can kind of call it. Then we can say, all right, they're probably done. But I am just looking so excitedly at what, especially on D-line, and especially on what happens on the edge now with Grenard and Van Ginkel, because those guys are not going to be able to get a ton of attention when you got Jonathan Allen on the inside. Like, that is what he is going to do. And if Jonathan Allen has like a terrible production, but he like gets a bunch of double teams, because that means that Grenard and Van Ginkel went off. And that's the thing about D-line. Everybody kind of owns everybody's production. And that was the thing I said to sort of defend Jonathan Bullard. And I think you're going to take that effect and ramp it up to 11. That the sacks that Grenard and Van Ginkel and Patrick Jones got, a lot of those were thanks to something that Jonathan Bullard would not have happened without what Jonathan Bullard was doing. So I think he does own some of that production. And I think bringing in Hargrave and Allen just ramps that up, right? You want to talk about get that kind of guy to do the dirty work. And by the way, what if you have Jonathan Grenard do some dirty work, and then Jonathan Allen gets a one-on-one with your cruddy guard? Oh, baby. We are very excited. And this is kind of the thing that we thought would happen, right? I mean, we knew there would be a flurry. We knew that Kwesi was going to do a lot. There were a lot of needs and a lot of money. So, of course, he was going to throw it all around. It's not often that the names that I hear a lot are the ones that end up Vikings, right? Everybody said Will Fries. Everybody said Jonathan Allen. And they did that. They did the thing. They did it. And they even replaced Garrett Bradbury, which there are people in this chat who have been begging for that for half a decade. Children have started high school and ended it twice over. And Garrett Bradbury's still been the center of the Vikings, and some people wanted him fired after his first game. You finally got what you want. I will be honest, though. I was thinking about it after the show last night. I'm a little sad. I have been a staunch Garrett Bradbury defender since I started this show. I started this show in 2018. The 2019 draft was the first draft I covered on this show. And I've been a staunch Garrett Bradbury defender since day one. I think he got absolutely unfairly criticized for a ton of his career, and he was horribly underrated for a ton of his career because too many people put their stock in pure PFF grades. But that doesn't mean I don't think that you couldn't have improved. Ryan Kelly is an improvement on him, I think, absolutely, but I'm a little bit sad that, like, my son, my baby boy, is gone. It was a good bit for a long time. He's a legend, and I will salute him. And I will salute you all. So I will not be, if more stuff happens, I will not be able to go live again until later tonight. So if there is more stuff to talk about, we'll do that. If not, we'll count this as the Wednesday show. We're kind of just super far ahead. We'll count this as the Wednesday show. I'll give my vocal cords a break. And I'll talk to you on Thursday morning. Until then, as always, Skull.